From the outside looking in, it's almost impressive how far the Princess of Wales seems willing to go to inject a spark into a Christmas tradition that long stopped generating real excitement. Every year, like clockwork, the royal PR machine rolls out their polished posters, their breathless announcements, and their carefully coordinated media pieces urging the public to tune in. And every year, the result feels the same. A production drowning in glittering lights and set pieces, yet somehow missing the one thing it desperately needs: genuine interest. This year's attempt, complete with a sudden flood of celebrities, singers, actors, and anyone with a recognizable face, looks less like a festive celebration and more like an unmistakable plea. Please watch this. Please care. Please give this thing a pulse. The annual Christmas Carol service has begun to resemble a project that knows it's struggling and is now throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. You can't help but notice how the promotion alone feels like a spectacle of its own. Headlines shouted the announcement as if it were the second coming of holiday entertainment, but behind all that noise was an undertone of desperation that even casual observers could sense. Last year's placement, barely scraping its way onto television rankings, told the entire story. The public wasn't exactly rushing to their screens. So this year, suddenly, the Abbey is being transformed into what looks suspiciously like a makeshift Hollywood set, complete with star appearances sprinkled around like decorations meant to distract from the fact that the centerpiece hasn't changed and the foundation is as shaky as ever. The enthusiasm behind the event feels more manufactured than festive, as if the real show is happening off camera. A battle to prove the tradition isn't sinking. The attempt to elevate the event with a star-studded lineup comes across less like a creative decision and more like a calculated move to force a particular narrative. It's as though someone somewhere believed that draping the room in celebrity could magically erase the steep drop in public excitement over the years. But glitter never fixes a cracked ornament. You can stack the program with singers who actually have fan bases and actors who actually draw crowds, but it doesn't change the perception that the Christmas special has struggled to resonate outside the bubble that promotes it. You can dress it up, polish it, add 1,000 voices, but when the core feels hollow, everything else just becomes noise. There's a certain irony watching this pattern repeat itself annually. Each year, the messaging becomes louder, the promotions more dramatic, and the framing increasingly exaggerated, all in an effort to breathe life into something that has consistently underperformed. It's like watching someone insist that a lukewarm cup of tea is suddenly gourmet simply because they changed the mug. The numbers tell their own unsentimental truth. Audiences just haven't been drawn to it in the way the palace hoped. And now, with Hollywood sprinkled over the top like last-minute tinsel, the whole thing begins to look like an attempt to will relevance into existence by association rather than substance. This formula, overcompensating glitz paired with exaggerated fanfare, makes the event feel less authentic and more like a spectacle of trying too hard. And the timing doesn't make it subtle. After so many years of middling reception, suddenly reaching beyond royal circles to bring in notable names reads like a strategy born from panic, not vision. It's the entertainment equivalent of turning up the volume to distract from a song that still isn't hitting the right notes. Instead of quietly evolving or rethinking the core of the event, the approach has seemingly doubled down on optics. If people aren't watching because they care, then perhaps they'll watch because someone they care about shows up. It's an approach that might fill a few headlines but never solves the underlying problem. Interest can't be forced, no matter how many spotlights you flip on. There's also something distinctly awkward about the very obvious shift in tone this year. The energy behind the promotion suggests someone is trying to manufacture a moment, a cultural highlight, or even a sudden resurgence of enthusiasm. But the public isn't blind. When a production is truly beloved, the excitement builds naturally. It doesn't need excessive advertising, dramatic announcements, or endless reminders that a must-see event is happening. Generally, if something is genuinely must-see, the audience decides that for themselves. What's unfolding here, instead, feels like an annual attempt to insist that the Christmas special has cultural weight, when the public response year after year has demonstrated the opposite. A production doesn't become iconic simply because the palace wants it to be. Legacy is earned through impact, not through press releases. And then there's the undeniable humour in watching the narrative shift depending on the circumstances. If the ratings are unimpressive, the excuse becomes, well, it wasn't about the views. Yet when there's even the slightest improvement, suddenly the numbers matter again. This inconsistency stands out, especially as this year's entire effort appears engineered around gaining more attention, more viewers, and hopefully a higher ranking than the previous run. It's hard to ignore that the choice to bring in Hollywood's glow seems tailored to achieve exactly that. The production doesn't need A-list additions for a traditional carol service, unless the goal is to create buzz strong enough to drag the ratings up by sheer force. Watching this unfold feels like witnessing a slow, persistent scramble for relevance, a scramble wrapped in red ribbons and Christmas tree lights. The entire endeavour projects an energy of someone trying to outrun the obvious truth. The special hasn't succeeded in becoming the festive staple the palace wants it to be. The more glitter they add, the more it highlights the void beneath it. And that's where the satirical humour kicks in, because the harder the production tries to present itself as riveting holiday television, the more apparent it becomes that the effort is working overtime to distract from the fact that audiences haven't truly connected with it. The attempts at grandeur don't hide the sense of trying too hard. They magnify it. There's a certain comedic quality in how obvious the strategy is this time around. Suddenly, it's not just a royal family Christmas event. Now it's packaged like a premium entertainment production. But even the most polished performances and high-profile cameos can't mask the underlying issue. You can't artificially engineer cultural relevance. You can purchase lights, rent cameras, and call in celebrity appearances, but you can't buy authentic public enthusiasm. And when the palace tries to present this elaborate event as a monumental moment, it almost invites viewers to look at the numbers from previous years and laugh at the disconnect. If you're going to label something a major national tradition, it should at least feel like one. Instead, each new installment seems increasingly dependent on exterior sparkle to compensate for dwindling organic excitement. It begins to resemble the royal equivalent of a brand trying to reboot a failing series by adding guest stars in hopes that viewers won't notice the storyline hasn't changed. All the while, the tone of the coverage and the PR push is so determined, so breathless, so insistently serious that it becomes unintentionally comedic. The contrast between the grand presentation and the lukewarm public reaction turns the entire event into a kind of holiday satire in itself. Because beneath the elaborate marketing, the glamour shots, and the decorative theatrics, the simple truth shines through. The attempt to glam up the special feels like a glittery bandage over a wound that isn't healing. And that's the tone that keeps coming back year after year. The unmistakable sense that this isn't about Christmas spirit as much as it is about relevance. Every angle, every carefully crafted headline, every dramatic announcement feels like part of a larger campaign, aimed at convincing viewers that this event matters enough to tune in. But the audience cannot be tricked into enthusiasm. Public interest isn't a switch you can flip simply by throwing glitter at a production. So as this year's Christmas Carol service prepares to roll out its red carpet in the Abbey, the entire spectacle carries that familiar blend of over-the-top packaging and underlying uncertainty. The attempt to elevate the show with Hollywood gloss feels more like a silent admission. The event can't stand on its own. And the louder the PR machine repeats how grand and special it is, the more obvious the struggle becomes. In the end, it reads less like a festive celebration and more like yet another chapter in an ongoing effort to salvage a tradition the public isn't connecting with. A glittery, camera-ready symbol of someone trying just a little too hard to stay in the spotlight. And no matter how many stars walk through the Abbey doors, that unmistakable tone remains. The harder they try to fix the flop, the more obvious the flop becomes.